Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Monday Night Moshiach class, because Moshiach matters. And as we are winding down the year, coming to an end of the first sequence of Nun Aleph Nun Beis Sichas, we will be ending off with Nun Aleph pretty soon, a few more parshas. And then cracking back up again after Yom Tovim for Bereshis to start up in Nun Beis. But anyhow, we are now Parshas Kitzitza. And let's get started. Let's see here. I like to do a calculation so I know how long the Sikh is, so I could pace myself. 24. No, up until 28. Yeah, so 14, 2, 75. Okay, here we go. I say that the Kriyas V'Torah Makudam Makom Shamafsikim B'Shabbos Sha'acharis Shem Korean B'Mincha Kitzad Shabbos Rishona Korean B'Shacharis B'Seder Bereshis B'Mincha Korean Ela Toldos Noach Esra Psukim O Yosef All that exact Korean Kol Hashana Asher B'Kriyas Shtei HaParshas of Shabbos Echad Udgash HaKasha V'Shachos the Shtei Parshas Zelitza. The Rebbe explains that every Shabbos we read two parshas. We read the entire parsha of the week, and then we read in Mincha on Shabbos the first three parshas of the upcoming week's parsha. And that is how it's conducted throughout the year. So the Rebbe says we have to understand that every Shabbat there's a connection between these two parshas, the ones we read in Shabbos Shachris and the one we read in Shabbos Mincha. And the Rebbe is asking, what is the connection between the two parshas we read on this Shabbos, which is Parshas Kisitza that we read in Shachris, and Parshas Kisavo that we read on Mincha. Because, the Rebbe is asking this question because he says, Shehem Inyanim Hafachim Zemazem, that these two parshas seem to be completely opposite meanings. So we're trying to find the connection and the relevance between both of them. Shmoisa Parshiyos. First, we're starting off with the name of the parshas. Tzitza v'tzavo. Shetzia v'yavo. Heim Inyanim Hafachim Zemazem Pshuto. The names of the parshas are indicative of two complete opposite things. Kisitza, which is this week's parsha, which literally means to go out. It's referring to out to war. The Savo literally means to come in, to sit and to dwell and to be at peace, be calm. And these two already are two completely opposite meanings. But Taichen of parshas, and now for the content of the parshas, Kisitza, Nilchama al Oivecha, when you go out to war upon your enemies. Kisavo Haaretz, and when you come to dwell in the land. Reshusoi v'Shabbos bo. Shetzia v'Shavet bo. Shetzia l'Milchama v'Shiva ba'aretz. Heim mitzavim shoinim hafachim zemezem. Again, two opposites. One is when you're going out to war to conquer the land, and the second is when you're entering the land and you're dwelling in it in a calm way. Shechein Hashem Milchama hi bo'efen no Hashem Elokecha b'yadecha v'shivase b'shavai. Hamshik v'sim kasu. Ha'izek asher im ma'amor u'metzav yisader ha'ader ha'menucha v'his'avshois. Skipping the brackets. Let me see where they end. So when you're going out to war, this is the complete opposite of peace. You're not settled. You're not dwelling. You're in war. When you're at war, you got to be all in, right? You have to be a lion. You have to be in full hyper vigilant. All your faculties completely on top of everything. It's the opposite when you come to the land and you dwell in it and you're chill and you're at peace. Ish tachas gafnai v'tachas nasoi. When you're sitting amongst the grapevines and the fig trees, This is when you enter the land. This is the opposite of when you're going out to war. And furthermore, it's talking about the after you conquer the land, the mitzvah of bichorim, bringing the first of the fruits, which is a joyful thing, because you're at a state of total peace. So you're happy, you're calm, you already conquered. You conquered the land. Once you've conquered the land, you're chill. There's no more threat, right? Could you imagine how nice Israel's going to be when we have no threat from all the surrounding countries and unfortunately the animals that our ignorance government have given away land to, and for 15 years have been just plotting more and more destruction against us, and they just ignore it and pretend that it's not happening, which is why we had the problem we did now. I don't want to get into it. It's a whole lot for Brigham. But the point of the matter is, it's far from being at peace. When you're calm, when you're at peace, you're not worried about threats. You're not worried about any type of war or danger. You're good. Complete opposite of going out to war. Okay, base. And we must connect and explain these two parshas as they're connected to the service of a man to his creator. He says, when you got to war upon your enemies. Mora al hayatzia hanefesh halukis. Misharisha umakora the maila. Do you read the matzah? Itlabush beguf v'nefesh behemis kedei levarer rim v'zechochi. The chavira v'zechoch helu koi ba'olam. She'avoda zehi ba'ofen shel melchama im amineged b'prat b'zman hagofus. Okay, so when you're going out to war, this is indicative of what's up, Dov? What you got over there? Oh, got your name. Yeah. Okay. Welcome. So when you're going out to war on your enemies, according to Hasidus and Kabbalah, this is not necessarily a physical war. This is a war of the godly soul, which is coming from its source and root above, that it's connected to God, that has to descend down here into the physical world, into a physical body, into an animal's soul, in order to rectify and purify it, until the point that it's completely rectified, along with your portion of the world. God assigns to each one of us a specific portion in the world that we're responsible for. We're responsible for refining our own animal soul, our own God, our own physical body, obviously our families, our homes, our communities, but everyone has a different slice of the world, if you will, that God says, this is your portion, and this is what you're responsible for. And the job is to rectify and elevate the negative elements and purify them and return them to Shem. That's the true war of a Jew. That's the real war that we're going through all the time. The war out there with our enemies is just a reflection of what's going on inside, because there's so much self-hatred, unfortunately, amongst the Jewish people. And you can't completely blame them after being prosecuted and murdered and raped and every other horrific thing by every other country in the world for thousands of years. It gets tiring. So, who wants to be associated with that? So the Jews, unfortunately, develop self-hatred. They want to deny. They may wear a big bling Jewish star and say I'm Jewish, but when it comes to Torah and mitzvot, they don't want anything to do with it. And the rage, that hatred, is that voice inside that is hating that part of inside them that is connected to God. So the real war, again, is not out there. If the government in Israel right now said, okay, that's it, we're starting to keep Shabbats, we're going to start keeping kashrus throughout the whole country, the Hamas would disappear in 2 seconds. They won't even exist. So the real battle, the real war in the time of the Golos is inside. It's an inner battle between our own evil inclination, between our own Amalek, the own Hamas that is inside. Hashachis hagolis. Morgash yoiser toicha from menegar and bamila gam hatzurich lebachama betoicha kedei lebatan. And because we're in a time of such darkness, where the godly energy and the good and the truth is so concealed over in the gullets, that it's requiring us and it's necessary that we go out to war in a strong way. You have to battle in a powerful way. This is not a foo-foo kind of thing where you just, pop your martini and sit on the beach and say, okay, Hashem's running the world, he'll take care of it. We have to go to war. In order to nullify this. I always find it fascinating. I've probably mentioned it before in these classes, but that when you study the prophet Yecheskel and the vision he had of the divine chariot, we know that there was on to the side of the right was a lion, to the side of the left was a shore, was a bull, and then to the west was an eagle, to the east was a face of a man, and this is what he saw in his prophetic vision. And I always found it interesting that the right side, which represents Chesed, there's a lion there. A lion is probably not the animal that would come to mind when you think about kindness and Chesed. The left side is the bull, which represents the ruler of the domesticated animals, if you will, the animals that are used for farming purposes and eating. And the lion is representing the ruler of the wild animal kingdom, so to speak, but not exactly Chesed. If you're thinking about a chesed animal, a kind animal, okay, maybe he's got a koala bear over there. I don't know, something that's a lot less intimidating. And I did a lot of deep contemplating on this, and what I came up with, and I'm not here to say it's right or wrong, just my own opinion, is that the lion on the right side, which represents chesed, shows that even though the main work of a Jew is chesed, in other words, we're here to bring kindness and goodness to the world, we need to fight like a lion in that mission. We have to be all in with all of our powers in order to succeed in the mission of rectifying the animalistic soul and the negativity in the world around us. And then, of course, in Parshas Kisavo, which we read in Mincha, we learn next week. Excuse me. It says, when you enter the land that Hashem, your God, is giving to you, you shall dwell in it in calm, in a peaceful way. Should bring benachat, right? It's like you're on a, I don't want to say vacation, but similar. No worries, no stress. Everything's good. But to get to that place is a war. Even the same thing inside. To get to a place where you can reach a state of equanimity, of calmness, of when the pressure's on, to remain calm, takes a lot of work. You've got to go to war against all those negative energies inside that cause us to whatever it is that's triggering us to make us angry, frustrated, whatever the case may be. This is a lifetime of work. This is not easy to reach a state of equanimity. You have in the Far East religions people who sit and meditate and spend years, lifetimes trying to reach a state of calmness inside. And they're disconnected from the world. Imagine being in the world every day, dealing with the stress. Every aspect of life has stress, even marriage. It's a wonderful thing, but there's stress involved. There's financial stress. There's relationship stress. There's different partners have different baggage they bring. Then you add kids into the mix. It's another level. And then sometimes you have challenging neighbors. And then you go to shul, and the guy sitting next to you is starting up with you, and this one and that one. And at work you have problems. Life is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. And this is the war we have to go in order to get to a state of calmness and peace. And but the fact the Rebbe says that we have to go to war, and that the going to war is connected to the parsha of calmness and peace, and this is the kunz, this is the point. It's indicative that our service must be in a way of menucha and shalom, of calmness and peace. That means even though you're going to war, it has to be a calm way, right? You have to fight against, because otherwise, if you wrestle with people who are dirty, you're going to get dirty. So even when your Yetzer Hara, your animal soul is coming after you and is starting with you, and you don't want to be on his level, right? If he's coming with fire, you want to bring water. If he's coming with water, you want to bring fire. You have to be smart. You have to work smart. So the Rebbe says the work in the war has to be in a calm way, right? And this is the trick. and the time that the Jewish people dwelled in the land of Israel when the base of English was standing. It was the complete opposite of going to war against your enemies, because everything was good. It was calm, right? The times of Shlomo HaMelech is a shalom. The Jewish people were in an ultimate state of peace. That's the goal. Gimel. And the concept of going into the land and dwelling there. All ha'aretz v'yushav Yeshua v'ereth v'asidago. This is indicative of how things will be in the times of Mashiach, when we'll have the ultimate state of peace. And according to this, it emphasizes even more the difference and the how far away the comparisons between these two parshas are. Lo rak based on finding avodah, not only connected to the two ways of our service, that they're different one from the other of war and peace, and the chiluk klal yishabein avodas l'schar. But it's also completely divided in general between the service and the reward. This is an awesome sikha. Shel parshas kiseisa kishora im ma'aseinu va'avodosenu. But parshas kisavo kishora im haskar l'sitavo. Okay, so parshas kiseisa, this week's parsha, is connected to our deeds and our service, which is generally connected to the time of the exile. And Parashas Kisavo is connected to the reward that we're going to get in the days of Mashiach. That should come immediately. And according to this is emphasized even more by what we learn out in the two parkim of Masechta Avos that we learn in the Shabbos. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. The difference between the first parak, which is Moshe received the Torah from Sinai, Masara, and inherited and forward. Call Echad Yisrael, all serve call it. There is to every one of the Jewish people, we're all inheritors of the Torah until all generations. And you shall raise up many students. But guess what's this is emphasizing the general service of the Jewish people in fulfilling the Torah. In the end of the second parak, and the reward of the righteous will be given in the future to come. This is emphasizing the reward for the service. And even the service and the reward, these two things, that they're not the same. Today you do it, and then tomorrow you'll get the reward. Nevertheless, we're learning about both of them in the same Shabbos. In one continuation, in one parak. So again, emphasizing these two opposite things that seem to be joined together in the parshas we read on Shabbos, as well as the Pirkei Avos that we're reading. Dalet. So now we're going to start explaining. Tchilas kriyas parsha kisavo la'achar v'hemshech lekriyas parshas kiseitzi. Hu kamo perush ubior the parshas kiseitzi. At the beginning of the reading of Parshas Kisavo, that comes at the end in the continuation of Parshas Kiseitzi, is similar to the explanation and the understanding of Parshas Kiseitzi. Shagam she'avoda melchama. Furthermore, the service of going out to war. As we mentioned before, that the point that these are connected, and the connecting point is that even when you're going out to war, it must be in a calm and a peaceful and settled way. Not an easy thing to do, right? When the pressure's on and you feel it coming on all sides, and it happens, we all have been there, happens to me on a pretty regular basis. Things are just smooth sailing, and I got, I'm up on the board and I'm surfing and things are flowing, things are good, and then all of a sudden here come the waves, boom, 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 and it's not just one. it comes in all aspects. It comes in the home, it comes in the work, it comes in the shlichus, it comes with the friends, it comes. So all of a sudden, the energy just starts coming in on you, right? And you feel like the walls are coming in on you, and sometimes it's hard because you don't know how to balance it, you don't know how to measure, you don't know how to what to do first, how to prioritize, how to deal with this onslaught of energy that's coming in at the same time. And the Rebbe is saying, yeah, even when you're in that state of war, I mean, how much more so if you're out in a battlefield, right? You got to remain calm, because anyone knows, like when someone's when you go into when you get into a fight, or you're in a very heated situation, a lot of times the first thing you do is you hold your breath, you get all tense. It's the worst thing to do, right? Have to breathe and stay calm, and it's hard to do when the pressure's on. But the Rebbe is telling us that's exactly what we need to do. Then when we go to war, it has to be in a calm way, in a settled way. And even more than this, in general, the service that is already an example of the beginning of the situation of the reward, right? Because if you're working in a way of calmness, in a way, it's already starting to give you the reward. Because if you're able to carry out God's will and to fulfill what you need to do in this world in a calm way, that's pretty rewarding, right? It's a good thing to be able to fulfill your divine purpose in a way of menucha, simcha, b'tuv v'lav, in a calm way, in a happy way, in a joyful way. That's a great reward in and of itself. That's already a foretaste of the blessing that's coming from the reward. Pisuk 9, HaMishnah der Perkei Avos, and a continuation of the Mishnah Perkei Avos. And know that the reward of the righteous is in the future to come. The Yeshua HaPerush Bazen. So what does it mean? She'avoda atzma hi mitoich his kashreis v'his chavreis ima metzara metzara this charan shel tzadikim l'sidavo. That's that the service itself is connected to the association and the unification with the situation of the reward that comes from the righteous in the future to come. What does it mean? That the time of the service is a foretaste of the reward that will come in the future, as we just mentioned. Yesh Lamar, this to say, and this is also hinted in Kiseitse in of itself. Shabo Na'amar Hetzivoy, the Netinas Skar Sachir, Po'ifim, Liyamo, Tatain Skar. That the commandments of giving the reward is in such a way of Biyoima Titain Skar, that in today you will literally receive the reward. Move on. So from this we can understand. Even as it's connecting to giving to the reward being given for the service to the Jewish people, which is coming through God Himself, is the one who's going to pay us. And this is adding on to the reward that will be given in the future to come. And then tomorrow you'll get the reward. So we should know so not only the Rebbe said, you're going to get this gift, this reward in the future to come, but you're going to start getting it now. It's going to come to you even before. Hey, Yovan B'Hadam Pior He'imin. He says, "Oh, now we're going to get into some cool stuff." So it says like this. When it talks about going out to war on your enemies, Rashi explains that this is a permissible war in the service of man. There's a difference in a war that you have to go to, and what's called a milchama hareshus, a war that if you want to, you're permitted to, but you're not obligated to. Excuse me. As we said above. And when you go out to war on your enemies. This is hinted on the general service of a man in the world. איך תפרש במלחמה הרשוס. הכסוב בדבר. הרי היציע מלחמה בירור הגוף הנפש בהמס וכל האדם היא ציווי וחובה. So the Rebbe has a question. If this is a permissible war that you don't have to go on, hold on a second. Didn't we say a minute ago that the true war of a Yid is when you're going out to a war, meaning your godly soul is leaving its abode in heaven next to God, basking in the radiance of godliness, and must come down here into this physical coarse world, and then clothed in an animal soul, and then clothed in a body, in order to rectify and purify your animal soul and your body and your portion of the world. Isn't that an obligation? When we get sent into this world, we take an oath. We'll be wicked and not we'll be righteous and not wicked. The mitzvahs are commandments. They're incumbent upon us. God never said you don't want to do it, don't do it. So how is this a voluntary war if in fact it seems like it's not, right? Against your will you're born, against your will you will live, you will die, and you'll give an accounting to the King of Kings. How is that a voluntary war? And the Rebbe said the question is even further strengthened by the fact of getting a payment for our service. Scar, or reward, if you will. The avoid as ba'al bayit. Tomorrow's a scar. That this is connected in actuality, that the reward itself to the service with the one who's giving it, and for the purpose of why he's giving you the reward. Wait, hold on a second. Because this is not negated if it's not obligated to the service as is given to you. I'll explain in a second. This is not the case of a service that he was bought, so to speak, and he's obligated to attend his master, if you will. It is not shaykh to a reward. In other words, if you're working, right, if you are a servant, a worker, the person who's hiring you, they're hiring you and paying you for your work. You're not also getting rewarded. Your reward is you work, you get paid. That's how it works. This concept of reward doesn't seem to make sense if you're obligated to the one who you're working for. And since the Jewish people are obligated to serve Hashem, Medin Eved, we come under the category of servants. Because my children are my servants. And not only that, we're obligated to serve him. I was created only to serve my master. So what is this concept of being paid a reward to serve our master that we're obligated to serve? That the idea of a payment of a reward is given to the service in such a way of permissible. But it shouldn't be applicable to something you're obligated to do. So we have to understand this whole concept of, it says it's a permissible war, but yet we're obligated to Hashem. We have to do it. So how is it permissible? And if we have to do it, what is this concept of getting a reward? A reward is not shaykh to someone who's a servant who has to do it. Vav. So now we're going to explain this matter a little bit deeper. We have to examine the precise language of what it says. You should go out to war upon your enemies. So going out. לא רק ביחס לעמידת הנשמה בעולם האצילות, אלא גם ביחס לשורש המקור הראשון. ומעלה מכל סדר השתלשלות. Okay. First, we have to understand this concept of going out. That the service of a man in this world is such a way of going out from the place of truth above. Not only is it connected to as the soul is standing in the world of Atzilus, but also as it's connected to the source and root of the soul and its origins above even the upper worlds of Atzilus, the spiritual worlds. Because the original thought that arose in God's mind, it's called Machshava Hakaduma Da'ak, the primordial thought from the world of Ak, which is God's first manifestation as a partsuf, if you will, of a spiritual entity. That's where the source of the Jewish people come from, above the spiritual worlds. The very, very first thing that entered God's mind, so to speak, it doesn't have a mind, but we use it in human terms so we can relate, was the creation of the Jewish people. So the source of our souls is infinitely higher than even all the spiritual worlds. As our rabbis teach us, and God consulted with all the souls of the righteous. And we see that every single yid literally is a portion of God within us. We're one existence. A yid is connected to the very essence and being of God. And as the pasuk says, the Jewish people and God are truly one. Right? Imagine the nations of the world when they find out that every single Jew, what they've been doing all these horrific things to, they're doing it to God. It's not going to be a very well settled situation when God flips the lights and everyone sees really what's going on. In addition to this, we see what is written in the continuation of the parsha. As in it says, and not only this idea, but we see that Hashem Elokecha Yishma Es Olam, because your Father, God, your King, as it is written, that Havayahu Elokecha, that the God that created this world and the God that is above this world is truly one thing, and the Jewish people are connected, the soul of every single Jew, to the very essence of Hashem. That literally a portion of God, that Yaakov this is the rope of our inheritance. Yaakov, of course, being the predecessor to the Jewish people. That literally we are one and a part of God Himself, mamish. Like when the Rebbe emphasizes mamish, he's meaning that this isn't like fluffy words, like, oh, how nice, you're one with God. Literally, part of God. Not only God as He's emanating the worlds, like from the world of Atzilus, but as the emanator, meaning that we're not only part of the godly creation, we're part of God Himself, right? A Jew is part of the Creator. And all the nations of the world and everything else in the world is part of the creation. Doesn't mean that we have a superiority complex. We're not saying we're better. But God is basically saying, I have chosen to put part of me inside this group of people who is responsible for delivering my word and my message to the entire world. Not only the four letters of the name Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Elogam Bechinas Koitza Shel Yud, but the trupchik, the point of the top of the Yud, Shulamalu Shem Havaya, which is above from the name Havaya. The Bechinas de Loy Yitzra means Beshul Ois Bekotza Klo. The Atzmas Yisprech, and even above this upper Yud from the name Havaya to the very essence and being of God. According to this, now we can understand when it says you should go out to war against your enemies, why it is considered a voluntary war, a permissible war. Since every Jew is literally part of God, Yisrael, and the Jewish people and God are truly one. Therefore, the essence of every Jew is completely above and completely removed to the existence of the world or any work in the world, because we're part of the Creator. And when we descended down here into the physical world, in order to serve and rectify and purify this world, after the chain of creation, that God went through great lengths to change spiritual entities into physical beings. This was all done by Reshusam Shel Yisrael. And this is when it first arose in God's thought to win, to rule. It's called, according to Kabbalah, Ana Emloch, the original divine thought of when it arose in God's thought to create a world. That's the source of the Jewish people, before any creation took place. And therefore, we agreed to it. We agreed. God didn't force us. It arose in God's thought. I'm going to make this super simple. God existed in and of himself. He's perfect. He doesn't need anything. He's in a state of perfection. He chose to enjoy this concept of pleasure, of enjoyment, by creating a dynamic called sharing. How did you share? First, he shared with himself. He, so to speak, removed himself from himself. He had the ability to, these are all very powerful lessons in our own individual lives. And then after that, he created what was the Jewish people. It wasn't a creation, it was part of his being. And said, okay, I'm going to send you down into the world in a bunch of bodies. Here's the plan. I'm going to give you a Torah. I'm going to give you mitzvahs. Your job is to take these tools and rectify this low, lonely world that I'm sending you to. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to come back after a certain period of time, and we're going to rejoice and have an eternal temple, and we're going to celebrate together in the physical world, in a relationship of giving and receiving. Okay? And the Jewish people said, yeah, we're down. Let's do that. So we agreed to it. And believe it or not, this agreement that took place, and this is a very powerful tool to contemplate, this agreement that took place took place in a general way and in a private way. Meaning the Jewish people in general agreed to our mission in this world, and every single one of us agreed to our individual mission. We agreed to who we're going to marry. We agreed to what our work is going to be. We agreed to how far away from God we're going to go. We agreed to the challenges that we're going to have to go through to come back to God. Every single thing in our life, all of our troubles and our challenges, we signed contracts. We may not realize it. We forgot when we came down into this world, and it would be nice if God handed them over so we could see exactly what it is. But anytime things get difficult, always remember that this is the work we agreed to. We're contract laborers. We basically said to God, all right, let's do it, as a people and as individuals. Sigon Acher explained it a different way. From the side of the existence of the Jewish people that's connected to the creation of the world, this service is in such a way that we agreed to serve Hashem. But from the true essence of who we are, it's above. In other words, in one level, before creation, we agreed to this work. And we said, okay, we're going to do it. Once we get sent down into the physical bodies, into the world, it's no longer permissible. Now it's obligated. God said, all right, listen, right? You signed a contract, right? in the terms of the vernacular of the secular world, if two people enter into a contract, that contract could be enforced in a court of law because it's a valid binding agreement. And that valid binding agreement exists in heaven. Each one of us have it with God. And once we came into the world, part of our agreement is that we're going to do what is incumbent upon us by serving our Creator down here in the physical world. But that's only once we're in the world. Up above the world, before the world existed, when the Jewish people agreed to our service, that was permissible. That was when we agreed to do it. Ad kirikak shevehim hayisa melacha al briyasoidim avoda sahi ba'ifin shel reshus melacham reshus kasu medabar, as we just said. Va'al pi zeh muvan gam kalalu ze inyan shaloim skar. כיוון שמצר מציוסם המיתיס ישרוך של למעלה מועידם. ויעשה לו אילם תמליך לעבוד את רבירו אילם הוא באופן של רשוס. And so, according to this idea that we're going to be paid a reward for this, since from the true essence of the Jewish people, that we're completely above the world, but we descended into this world, and therefore it was necessary to do the work and rectifying in this world in such a way that we say it is permissible. Because since it was permissible, we are giving a reward. Because that is in the root, in the source. Before we came into the world, we agreed to this work. Zayin. The Tosafos bior ha'inin ha'tishalayim skar shel avoda sheyesh lahakdim techila bior ha'klalis inin avoda kisei shemachama oyevecha. In addition to this, and explaining the reward that is going to be paid due to our service, there is to this to preface the beginning of an explanation of the service, of what it says, and you should go out to war upon your enemies. Yatzias, go out. Hanashama mitis. What does it mean going out? It means going out from the souls above in our true place. Yisrael v'kutzva kuducha, where the Jewish people and God are truly one. In order to ascend down here and enclose in a physical body in a physical world, where we agree to be God's partner to build a dwelling place for God here below, יחיד ומיוחד וממילא כל המקום הזה שיברא בו העולם. That prior to the creation of the world, where Hashem was alone and totally by himself, and then God brought about what's called as the chain of creation from upper worlds, spiritual worlds, eventually to create physicality. Down into this lowly physical world where there is no lower world, to the point that God's light is concealed. If people were really aware of who the Jewish people are and who God is, there would be no anti-Semitism. There would be no horrific things that are going on in the world, because everyone would be totally like this, in awe, like they're going to be. But in order to create free choice, God concealed himself from the world. And he had to do that by hiding into what's called as the nature. Why did God do this? Because it brings him great pleasure when one of his children is lost, so to speak, in the darkness of this world, where they have forgotten who they are, they've forgotten their purpose, and they've gotten so accustomed to this world that they forgot about their mission. And they wake up and realize, I'm a Yid, I have a purpose in this world, and they start pushing away the darkness, the undesirable things in God's eyes, and transforming the darkness of this world into light by being who we're supposed to be being. And that gives God tremendous pleasure and joy, because he knows it's a difficult task. He knows he didn't exactly send us down into it's not shooting ducks in a barrel. This is a hard world. It's a very difficult mission. And commensurate with the difficult mission is the reward. That's not why we do it. But God doesn't remain in debt. you work hard for God, you reap the rewards. And the entire purpose of creation is to reveal the essence of God down here in the physical world. And therefore, in order for the Jewish people to fulfill their mission and making God a dwelling place down here in the physical world, it was necessary for the soul to go out from its true place above, with God above in the upper worlds, where it was chilling. Where we saw God and God was revealed and everything was great. We said, okay, we want to go to war. Okay, let's go to war. We got to go down to this low world in this physical body. To enclose into a physical body and an animal soul in this physical world. And because of the tremendous opposition of our animal soul and our body who want to do animal things. An animal is a very self-focused being. Wants to eat, wants to sleep, wants to shtup, wants to just do animalistic things. And that animalistic desire inside of us is very strong. So you have to go to war against it. You have to go to war against that animal that is trying to hold you back from being who you really are and your holy mission in this world. And in order for the service of a yid to make this world a dwelling place for God down here in this physical world, we had to go away from the place of true life and true reality above and come down into this world of sheker, in the world of lies. The amount of lying and that is going on in the world today it's insane. It's a full-blown, our enemies in every capacity are just lying. That's it. Their whole entire message of voters right now is just a lie. The Jewish people are colonizers. Are you kidding me? This is our land. Have you ever seen how many Arab countries surround Israel? Israel, a dot, and this is all Arab countries. And God gave us this sliver of land, and they said, oh, this is ours. You took it from us. And unfortunately, people are so stupid and uneducated that they buy into this without even doing their own research. It's okay, yeah, sounds good. Let's blame the Jews. It's just easy to blame the Jews, right? Anyhow, it's an olam sheker, and we had to come down here and deal with it. And how do you defeat darkness and lies with light and truth? You don't fight with darkness. You don't fight with lies. You add truth and you add light. Explain it a different way. You should be read as explain it a different way. The unique thing of the descent of the soul down here below is the level of the existence that we are totally one with the Shem. And therefore we see that this is the unique way and the unique concept of building a dwelling place for God down here below, because we're totally one with God. In other words, the power of a Jew, the power of us to do our work in this world, where the few can overcome the many, where the little bit of light can overcome a lot of darkness, is because it's God's power inside of us. When we try to use our own brute force, you're extremely limited to what you can do. But when you surrender and you have a state of bittul and you allow God to enter through you, you're unlimited, because God is unlimited. The problem is when we try to use that godly energy for what we want to use it for, and then it doesn't work, because we have to tap into what our purpose and why we're here. And now we can see that what is hinted in these two parshas, one continuing after the other. Kisavo, it's our hearts when you come and dwell upon the land. That even in the true place of the soul is that it's above from the world. Nevertheless, we still had to come down here into this physical world and then clothed in physical bodies and enter into this land, so to speak, down here in the physical world in order to refine it and rectify it, to turn Israel from the land of Canaan, a land of barren wasteland where there's no godliness, to a land of Eretz Israel, to a holy land, a land where God is revealed. Eretz Israel, and the land referring to is, of course, the land of Israel. So why is this called the land, so to speak, and that it's in order to make a desirable place according to the will of our Creator? Even more, this is the land that Hashem gives to you. All the Jewish people have, the Rebbe said it over and over and over again, hundreds and thousands of times. You don't go into the UN, who gives a crap about them, and start saying, well, in the 60s, 30, and the borders of the 72, it's all bullshit. The land of Israel was given to us by God. It's written in the Bible. It's written in the Torah. Every single nation in the world who created any type of book, whether that's the New Testament or the Quran or whatever they wanted to call it, was based on the Torah. Not one single religion denies that God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. It's written right there very clearly. The land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. But you have to believe in God to be able to say that to the nations of the world. And when you have a government that's filled with Arab Rav who doesn't believe in God, then you got a big problem. So this is the land God gave us. This is it. It's very simple. That this is the land that is acknowledged and recognized that the Jewish people belong in. The land of Israel is a Jewish land. It's a Jewish people. And what are we having with all these? We're not only allowing our enemies to invade our borders, you're giving them passports. And you're giving... Do people understand how insane this is? Sinwar, that Israel has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to capture this one leader of Hamas, was sitting in an Israeli prison. He had cancer. They healed him. They brought in Jewish doctors and healed him from cancer and released him from prison. And now they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to capture him. It's insanity. No other nation does such a thing. Remember World War II when America carpet bombed Japan? Right? How about Korea? How about Afghanistan? How about in Vietnam? Like, no other country sits into. There's no innocent people in Gaza. It doesn't exist. You know how many times they don't put this on the news? Terror tunnels, cells, missile launchers from nurseries, from hospitals. They voted them in there. They're the same people. Half of them put on this costume, half of them put on this costume. It's insane. They arrest them and bring them to jail and give them medical care and fix their teeth and make them nice and pretty smile and heal them and treat them so nicely while they're murdering and killing. It's insane. Anyhow, this is the land that God gave to the Jewish people. And it's obvious. This is the land God gave to inherit and to dwell in it. It's a permanent home of the Jewish people. Have you looked at the map of the world? Have you seen how many Arab countries surround Israel? Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia. It goes on and on and on and on and on. Vast. No one talks about the Jewish people that lived in those countries that got raped, murdered, and all their possessions taken from them and thrown out. And now we are dwelling in a land that God gave us that is a little speck, and they're sitting and screaming at us and telling us it's not yours. It's insane. And they're following this narrative. Okay, maybe it's not ours. We're sorry. Okay, take some back. Leave us with nothing. Just leave me my socks and I'm fine. Okay. This is the place that's fitting for the Jewish people. This is where we do our mitzvot. This is where our Beis HaMikdash is. This is, the Quran doesn't mention one time Jerusalem, not once. It's mentioned dozens and dozens and dozens of times in the Tanakh. This is the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. It's the place where it's obvious that we are one together with God. Polim ha'aretz yitei yadira, that's Musa. That by developing and working the land, this is building a dwelling place for God. ומודגש יותר בהמשך הפרשה לקחת מהראשית called Pri Adama. And we see in the continuation of the parsha, Kisavo, about bringing the first fruits to Hashem, the mitzvah bichori. שהידי עבודתם של ישראל בירור האודם מסגלים באודם מציאות אמיתי של ישראל שקרויס ביכור. Because this is revealing that the service of the Jewish people and refining the world and the true existence of the Jewish people is Bikurim, that we're the first of God's fruits. God chose us first to do a special work in this world. Al Shem Shekad Moed, they'll call Devar, preceding everything else. To literally the fact that we're one together with God. And therefore it is this land, the holy land of the Israel, that God gave to the Jewish people to make a dwelling place for God. Thus, and we see furthermore that the service of paying the reward of the service. What is the reward? The mitzvah, the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah. Skar mitzvah, mitzvah atzmai. The reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah itself. What is a mitzvah? It means tetzaveh, to be connected, to be unified. So when you do things to connect to God, guess what you get? You get to be connected to God. It's a great concept. שרבינו הזכין מבוא בתחתיס הבריאה, סועדם הזה הוא ניסה בהקדוש ברוך הוא להיות לו דירה בתחתונים. As the Alter Rebbe brings down in his famous Tanya, that the entire purpose of the creation is to build a dwelling place for God below in this world. Mamshik menoida shishmois HaMashiach v'prat kishayev chayv misim im tachlis hashleimus v'begas ha'olam hazer shlochach yivam etchalasek. That the entire purpose is to build a dwelling place below. And we know this in the days of Mashiach, and especially in Tchiat HaMesim, when the dead will rise, that we will reach an ultimate completion of this world. And the level of divine revelation of reward that will take place in the future to come, in the days of Mashiach, which we're entering now, is directly commensurate to the work that we're doing now. You get in what you get out, what you put in. Ki hagoram skar hamitzvahs hi hamitzvah, and therefore we see the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah itself, by being connected. Kamasiyase mamamshik hadam gilui orein seiberahu milamara lamata davshir gashmi. In order to draw down godly energy and that God could dwell down here in us and in our surroundings. Klomar, in other words, Tishalayim skar al avodahi who taichen in Yisrael avodatz may gilu eloki Yisrael yuslo Yisrael betaktoy, dwelling place for God below. And according to this, we can understand the lashon that is used, that it says, "And today you will be given a reward through Hashem." That since through the performing of all the mitzvahs, it draws down to reveal the level of godliness of the Ein Sof into this world. Nimsad comes out from this. And this is the reward that you get. They call them mitzvahs a mitzvah before answer, because through every mitzvah it brings another mitzvah in actuality. That by bringing redemption to the world, you get personal redemption, right? When you're doing everything in your power to bring redemption to others, your reward is you get redemption yourself, because that's why we're here. The more you help others, the more help God gives you. The more tzedakah you give to others, the more money God puts in your pocket. It's not that complicated. It takes emunah, it Sometimes you got to jump. Sometimes you got to do things outside of your comfort level. But it will always come back. And furthermore, and mainly, שגם השכר לסידה של עדס עתה סגור בטבע נמצא כבר בלויסי של פועל ולא עוד אלא שבידו ורשוסו לפיתוח הטבע וכל עת שרצה על ידי זה שמוסיף עוד מצווה אחת שעל ידי הכריע את עצמי ועד כל העדים כולו לכף זכוס גם לו ולכף דתשובה לצלח וגול המצווה שלם על משיח ציקנו שאז יסגד השכר. Exactly what we're just saying. The work you're putting in now, when Mashiach comes, you will see revealed. It's like planting. You're planting and planting and planting, and you're putting your food in the ground, and you're prepping the land, and you're getting it ready, and all of a sudden everything starts growing. It didn't grow by itself. You had to work the land for it to grow. And the more you work the land, the more it grows. Right? This is a concept that took me a long time to wrap my head around. Everyone says in Hasidus, all you need to do is build a vessel. That's it. You need to build a vessel. Well, that depends. If you want to build a vessel this big, that's how much water you're going to get. You're not going to sit at home and play video games and work an hour a week and expect money to rain down from the sky. That's not realistic. And you're not going to once in a while be a nice person and help someone here or there and give a couple of dollars of tzedakah and expect big blessings to come to you either. It's all about, yes, you have to build a vessel, but the more blessings you want, you better build a vessel commensurate with those blessings. And in the future to come, we will see the reward in this physical world of all we do. And the glory of God will be revealed, and all flesh will see. All connected to our work now. In addition to this idea that we will receive the reward today, the reward, the mitzvah, in today, not only in the future to come, but today. In addition to the mitzvah that will the reward that will be given in the future to come, that tomorrow you receive the reward. It says in Pirkei Avos, we have the general reward, which was for the service and the work of all the Jewish people. Throughout all the generations up until this time, there will be a general reward given to all the Jewish people in the days of Mashiach, because together as a nation, we've been through hell, we've suffered, we've had God knows how many billions of dollars stolen from us and taken from every single country, from every single land, beyond, can't even talk about it. We're going to get paid for that. And we're going to be rewarded for all that. And not only that, we'll be able to keep Torah and do our mitzvot in the ultimate complete way. But Torah Chadash means he takes it. And we'll be able to learn the new Torah that comes out from Hashem. Yilui Pinim is the Torah, the revealing of the inner dimension of the Torah. The deep secrets will be revealed. And we'll be able to fulfill the mitzvahs. The mitzvahs according to God's way and His will. But there's going to be the general service and the general reward for the Jews. People look at it like this: you're part of a startup, and the startup company goes public and cashes out and makes $1 billion. And every single person in the startup company gets a cash payment for being part of the startup company. But now, different dividends are given based on where you are on that pecking order of the company. The guy who's sweeping the floors is probably not going to get the same amount of payments as the CFO who's running the business working 18 hours a day. That wouldn't be fair, would it? That's the same idea. We get the general payment for the Jewish people for all the work we did. And then each individual, as an individual, gets paid for their specific work. That's not why we do it. The main reward is getting close to God. It's doing God's will. That's why we really do it. But God is letting us know that He's also going to take care of us because we have worked very hard as a nation, and as individuals. Good. But let me make Yoiser a little bit deeper. A little foretaste of the reward itself connected to our service. That immediately upon the beginning of the service, according to this idea that the service and the reward are connected to one point. That through the service of the Jewish people who are truly one with God, by we will reveal the very essence of God in the world. That this is connected even before the beginning of our work. Because even before creation we're connected to God. That God existed in a total state of oneness before the world was created. And nevertheless, to the service of the Jewish people of coming down into the physical world and transforming this world into a dwelling place for God, it will be even higher. And we see this, and it's recognizable. The idea that at already beginning of the service, that the service of the Yidden in this world that we're bringing about after the world was created and our souls came down into physical bodies, and the and the situation will be in the future, the seed, the vote, the future to come. And the situation was in the past, before the world was created. That the true essence of a Jew, as we were totally one with God prior to our souls coming down into this physical world, that same exact oneness that existed prior to coming into the world is going to be revealed in the future to come with Mashiach, that we'll all recognize, including ourselves, that we are truly one with God. Yud Now we're emphasizing again these two parshas being read in the same Shabbos. And the continuation of the parsha that's hinted in the service that when you go out to war against your enemies, upon your enemies, and then you will come and dwell in the land. You will dwell in a calm way in the land. Looking for the end of the parentheses. This is referring to the true and complete redemption, and furthermore, the service of the war in rectifying the world is in such a way a menucha b'teshivos. And this is the point, that even though we're going out to war now and we will inherit the land in the future, talking about the days of Mashiach, the war we're doing now must be in such a way as if we're already in Mashiach consciousness and awareness, meaning it has to be in a calm way, in a way of that you're going to war knowing that you can't lose. You may lose a battle here and there, right? But this is a war that guaranteed the Jewish people and God will win. If you think for a second that these forces of evil that are trying to take over the world are going to be able to overpower God, you're delirious. It's not going to happen. God creates them. He's allowing them to feel like they're winning, like they're victorious, like they're somehow gaining power. And they go, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's going to be a world war and a civil war and this and that, blah, 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 blah. This is God's allowing this to happen to make them feel that they're going to be victorious. In the end, he will shut them down, just like he always does. But this time will be final. So we're fighting a war that we know we're going to win. Again, may get banged up a little bit, may lose a battle here and there, But we have to do such in a calm way, in a trustworthy way, that we know that we're going to be victorious, that we know that Hashem is going to win the battle for us. And therefore, when we're going to war, it has to be b'menucha t'shivos, just like you're dwelling in the land, in a calm way. And even now, in the time of our work, of the Golos, in our service, it should be recognizable that the Jewish people in the world below are in the same situation as we were above, that we're totally one with God. If you feel, and this takes work, this is real work, this is Hasidus, this is Hibonanot, this is meditating, this is mental work, this is therapy, this is digging deep into your kishkas. But if you really think about it, and if we really believe with all of our being that God is with us in all that we do, and we're confident of it, and we'll see that, what is there to be worried about? The suffix comes in, the reason we get nervous and worried and anxious, and it happens to all of us, is we have a momentary lapse of reason where we forget that God is with us, that we think somehow it's my shoulders, that I've got to carry this load on my back. I used to have such problems with my back, with my shoulders. I was always in pain. Happens from time to time now too, because I was carrying the world on my shoulders. I trusted God and I believed in God, but it was more like he's up there and I'm down here. That God's, yeah, of course he's with me, but he's not in my, he's really, when I'm hiring a new lawyer for my law office, he's really helping me find a lawyer. And when I'm advertising, he's helping me with my advertising campaign. Yes, yes, everything you're doing is with you. It's hard to remember that sometimes. But when we do, now we can go to war with the same oneness and connection that we have with God as when we were above. So this is so beautiful. Wow. It's worth sitting here for this 2 hours just for this one sentence. And therefore, when you have this mindset, this victorious mindset from the outset, and you go out to war, you go out to war, there's no enemy. It's in here. There's no opposition. And that's why the pasuk doesn't say mineged oivecha. It doesn't say when you go out to war against your enemies. It says al oivecha, meaning on top of your enemies. L'mayla me'ovecha. You're literally above from your enemies because you're one with God. When you forget about the fact that you're one with God and you start relying on your own power and your own muscles and your own strength, now it's a real war. Now your enemies are here, and sometimes they're above you, like when the spies and they saw these giants, because they forgot that the God was there. The idea is to transcend this world, right? You got to be above this world and in this world at the same time. You have to be grounded into this world, into the kishkas of this world. Every little detail of doing business, of working according to the laws of this world, but completely elevated above it and one with God, in a complete state of peace and calmness, and then there's no real enemy because you're connected to God, and it's just, the world's just paper tigers. You're just, doesn't feel that way sometimes, but this is the work we have to do in our brains. And then it says, God will put them into your hands. Put your enemies in your hands because you're with them. And now he can be with you. How can God be with you if you're not with him? If you have a doubt whether or not God is really with you, that doubt is stopping God from being with you. If you have Me'achu's complete confidence that God is with you, then God will 100% be with you. It's the power of what's in here. That's why the real war is not out there. It's in here. It's in here. It's inside. And even more than this, Yeshivas Beyadai, it'll be in a calm way. Because the enemy doesn't exist. You're above your enemy. And specifically by rectifying the 288 sparks of Tohu that fell into this world, of the Varim, and to the physicality of this world, through the service of the Jewish people, refining and rectifying this world and making a place that we can dwell in and be comfortable. Because the source of these very high divine lights, which is the world of Esau, is higher than this world of rectification, which is the world of Yaakov. That's continued in the continuation of the Parsha. Like it says, and the firstborn son of the wife that he hates, meaning that this is not what Hashem really wanted, talking about Esau, but by refining this negative energy in the world, the oiris hatikun, through the light and the vessels of this world, we're rectifying this higher energy that came into the world that is being used for undesirable things. Because the true source of the Jewish people, Yaakov, is even above from the world of Tohu. We come from God Himself. The Fnei Simpson, before the concealment and construction of God. Even before the world was created. Therefore, even the Rebbe is telling us, even though, according to Kabbalah, that Yaakov is from the world of Tikkun and Esau is from the world of Tohu, meaning that the rectification the Jewish people need to do is from a lower place than the energy of the powers of the animal soul, which is from above place. The source of us is even from above that. And furthermore, and mainly, that the main service is it has to be in a calm way. It has to be in a calm way. Right? Sometimes I'm talking to people, things get a little heated, people are getting upset, someone starts yelling. I said, no. I'm not here to yell with you. And you could talk like a normal person, we can have a conversation. Chill. Menuchas and nefesh menucha guf. Calm soul, calm body. The words, the diamonds that are coming out of the Rebbe's mouth. It's criminal that we don't have hundreds and thousands of people joining us in the shir for Monday night. Not because it's me. I'm not talking about me. But learn with someone else. But learn diamonds coming from the Rebbe's mouth every single week. And the Rebbe says like this, that by doing our work with a calm soul and a calm body, because when you're calm, what is it doing? It's showing God you trust Him. When we start panicking and getting nervous and freaking out, we're showing God we don't trust Him. That somehow we think it's on us. And if it's on us, maybe we don't trust ourselves. But God's saying, chill, bro. Tranquilo, I got you. Doesn't mean that life doesn't get tumultuous. I'm not trying to say by any stretch of the imagination that everything is just hunky-dory. Of course, this is life. But when those cycles of come, we have to work our best to recenter, to recalm, and to redirect ourselves to Hashem. Hello. I don't know who these people are with their handles, but welcome. And when we do so in a calm way, then Hashem gives to every single one of the Yidden all that we need in Gashmias and Ruchnias, in abundance. God's saying, when you trust me, I'll give you the world. When you do my work, I give you the world. So just to address briefly, we're learning in Lashon HaKodesh. This is the holy language. This is from the leader and prophet of our generation, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. and all of his teachings are part of the Torah. This is not, we're not learning from the actual Chumash, the 5 books of Moshe, no. So God is saying, I will give you everything in abundance if you go according to the ways that I'm asking you to do so. Kamosh Kesuv HaRambam, as the Rambam states, Noga the Oidim Hagashmim Shebetorah Habaticha Sanu Shiasor Mimeno Kol Hadavari Hamoanim Oisanu Malasois Kagom Khoyli Marhama Be'erav Kiyotze Behen Mishpa Lanu Kol Hatoivos Umitchazik as Yidino Lasois Satora Kagoin Shabo Beshalan Riway Kesavar Hazahav, abundance in physical wealth. And not only is the reward coming in the future to come, but also now. Today you will get the reward. Not only a spiritual reward, and the gam skar hagashmi, but physical as well. In other words, it's not just a lofty spiritual reward here. And this is a foretaste of the physical abundance that we will have in the days of Mashiach. And then there'll be no more evil, there'll be no more war. And then it says that everything will be like the dust of the earth, including the physical wealth and riches. Okay, good base. There's a little star here, which means that I'm going to change gears a little bit. Yesh kasher amar the el hataychan hazman shabo kareem b'parshas elut yudua shemamdim shall call hashana kulo yesh shaychus the isa haparshish hochan the okay, now we see a connection also to the month we are in the month of Elul. It's the final year of the month, final month of the year, I meant to say. And it's the time that we do a reckoning and accounting of the previous year. Excuse me. On the portion of that we have been given to fix up in this world, including our service of learning Torah, of davening, of doing good deeds, tzedakah, hulu, and the main service of tshuva. All that boing the hashlemus of the geula, and all this will come in a complete way in the final redemption. Including the beginning of the service of the upcoming year. Right, this is a serious month, Elul. It's a month of tshuva. It's a month of looking at the past year and thinking about all the things we want to improve in the upcoming year and taking good resolutions upon ourselves to do so. And we see the month of Elul has both of these components of unifying these two matters of reward and of service and reward. The beginning of the service in the year to come, and the end and the completion from the reward of the service of the previous year. Right? It's like every single week that we work. The true work of a yid is not what you do for your paycheck. That's how you pay your bills and support your family. The true work of a yid is Torah and mitzvot. It's our work of overcoming the negative energies in this world, the negative energies in ourselves, and rectifying our world around us for good. And every week, we have a spiritual gas tank that we fill up. And that spiritual gas tank gets filled up for us to do all the mitzvahs and all the Torah learning and all the davening and all the good things we do all week long, including the actual work we have to do to earn a living. And then Shabbos comes and we rest and we kind of plug in, and God sticks the pump inside of us and fills up our soul. And when you go over, the harder you work during the week for God, the more reward on Shabbos you get, the more enjoying it is, and the more power you get for the upcoming week. Now, every month, that same thing happens on Rosh Chodesh. Every year, that same thing happens on Rosh Hashanah, where the entire year's work, we're now getting filled up for the upcoming year. We see this hinted in the name Elu, which is the Rosh stated of Zani Ladodi Vadodi Li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. We know the beginning service is an arousal below, meaning we are the ones who start the tshuva process. We're the ones who return to God first. And this emphasizes the ultimate completion of our service, which is the reward, which is my beloved is to me. God is now returning us to us, returning the blessing to us. And then the goal is to make a marriage, right? So I was speaking about this at Baruch Hashem. We have a wedding last week. One of our center boys and girls got married together. And we're talking about this idea of a marriage is very similar to the marriage between us and God, that it's a give and take relationship. And the more you focus on your partner, the more you get from your partner. The more you focus on yourself, the less you get from your partner. It's the same thing with God. The more you focus on giving, the more God gives you. The more you focus on taking, the less God gives you. It's a duality relationship. And literally become one flesh, one entity. So we have the first step is now. It's like the engagement, so to speak. On Yom Kippur is the actual wedding. But when Mashiach comes, it'll really reach its state of fulfillment. And explain it in different ways. And we see in the marriage, which literally means to carry or to lift up. To lift up our heads. Sheshleimus HaMashiach, and this will take completely in its complete turn in the days of Mashiach. Shemarbo Yuroim Vanase Gova Ma'oid, we will be all lifted up. And through this completion of a marriage, the heads of all the Jewish people will be lifted up. But specifically through the spark of Mashiach and every one of us, which is the Yechida, the fifth level of our soul, Yechida Yechtech. That this is Mashiach is the general Yechida, the general fifth level for all of us. And the more we connect to Mashiach in our own life, the more we can experience redemption in a personal way. The Gasha Miyuched is called Hana, the Shana Satoshin and Aleph, Tanasa, Belashan Sivoy, Hein Benogad, his Galos to Biosa Mashiach, Naseva Oy, Hein Benogad, Hanyasiat, Kanasi Sokosh Bohoshimosa Mashiach. Talking about the completion of this marriage between God and the Jewish people in the days of Mashiach. And this is the year that Melech Mashiach reveals himself. Non Aleph. This is when the Rebbe openly accepted his title as Mashiach. The Rebbe says right here, this is the year that Melech Mashiach reveals himself. And he will stand on the roof of the Beit HaMikdash. And everyone says, what is Beit HaMikdash? Beit Rabbeinu Shema Babel, 770. But and he will announce the time of your redemption has arrived. Exactly what the Rebbe did. He stood up in 770 and he said, the time of your redemption has arrived. And the Rebbe said, it's the year Melech Mashiach reveals himself. And since we find ourselves in the final month of the year, and the Rebbe says, God forbid that the fulfillment of Mashiach's redeeming us should be delayed. In fact, it's going to happen, the Rebbe said, on this Shabbos immediately. The Rebbe always speaks about Mashiach in immediate terms, especially in the latter years. It's no longer Bim Harabi Amenu, speedily in our days. That was 50 years ago. The Rebbe in the latter years, every single thing is now, Mashiach now. But Pratiyos, but Pashtus, in a simple way. Shechodesh Alush Bashanas Tafshin and Aleph. Who Sioim Vechais, Masiyam V'Riseno calls a man Moshiach Hagos. This is going to be the completion, the Rebbe says, the seal of all of our final deeds in the exile. And we immediately will get the reward that will come in the days of Mashiach and the Tchiyat HaMesim, the rising of the dead, including the reward for the last 7,000 years. The reward of the righteous will be in the future to come. But the Rebbe says now, we're already getting a taste of it now. Literally right now. And we see also in the Yud Daled Elu. Yud Daled Elu Erev. Tesvav Elu. When the 15th of the month of Elul, when the moon will be complete. Trumaz al Hashlemas Yisrael the Yomin the Vanat. And the Jewish people are likened to the moon. Minyan the Vanat. The seed in the Kadesh Kamois. In the future we will be renewed like the moon. But Shechidush. Mishlemas Halavanahu al Yezet. Pakabim or Hashams. And then the moon will reach its state of completion as it receives the light from the sun. Shuhu in Yehud Shemesh V'Sachava. And then the moon will be complete, just like the sun. And then the complete marriage that will take place between the Jewish people and Hashem. Base. This is exactly 30 days before, the festival. Literally the time of our rejoicing. Sukkos, which is the completion of the joy. The Yom Kippurim, and it's connected with the revealing that takes place in Yom Kippur. When Yom Kippur is the day that the Jewish people are one with God and are revealed with. Shemechavrim basis smichus yachat simchus l'mayla lamata v'yismeach, a joy from above and joy from below. Hayaba masiyeno im simchus lamata lamaoidim yismach Yisrael oisim shebizeh murgash kibor the kalos avoda, and the Jewish people will rejoice down here below. Im haschar, and together with the reward. Kimasav ezeh kalich ini hayom nasois, the reward of from doing. Today you will do them, and then you'll get the reward. And God will surely rejoice in our work and what we've done. And this joy will be revealed in the dimension of Pnimis Ati, which is the inner dimension of the crown above, is where the source of pleasure and joy comes from. And all this applies more specifically to us in our generation. And this Erev Shabbos, Yom Yud Gimel, which is the Yud Gimel of Elul. The day of the marriage of the leader of our generation, Friedrich Rebbe. And after this, we continue on, and we have the 15th of Elul. Yom Chastisaj Yeshivas Tamchei Tamimim, the day of the establishment of Tamchei Tamimim. And it's the Sheva Brachas of the Friedrich Rebbe's marriage. Shemimenu boy hatza'ah the aviv the yisar hashib nitivna ide aviv the ha'poach shivas, and Nisian kava'echon Yisrael, in the marriage of the Jewish people together with Hashem. A foretaste of how it will be in the days of Mashiach. And the 7 blessings that we will have in the times of the redemption. Yishama ba'ari Yehudi v'chutz v'Rishalayim v'lachas kama v'kam nisiyim anisi hador. How much more so we see as the marriage of the leader of our generation is an example of like the marriage of the Jewish people and Hashem, because a nasi hu akol, the leader of the generation, is connected to the whole generation. V'prat nisiyim hatorah Chabad, and specifically the leader of the Torah of Chabad Hasidus. That this is revealing the innermost dimension of the Torah in a way we can comprehend it. And spreading out the well springs to the furthest corner of the world. This is the job of Mashiach. And how much more so do we see as it's connected to the leader of our generation. שבהמשך לזה ביוחד עם זה חייסה ישיבת תמכי תמים, the establishment of תמכי תמים מישיבה. תלמידי הישיבה נקרא תמימים, and the students of the yeshiva are called tamimim. It literally means sincere ones, or panim, or ones who are deep. Al shem shaloimdim Torah haya Torah haniglis v'Torah hasidus. Tamima, and that we learn the innermost and the outermost dimension of the Torah in a way that's deep and meaningful. And sincere. And just like there's a Tankei Tamimim set up a learning so that it's just like you have the revealed part of the Torah, you learn also the Hasidus, the concealed part of the Torah. Both are given equal treatment. That we, by learning Hasidus Chabad, we connect the innermost dimension of our mind to the innermost dimension of the Torah. Yuchud nifal she'ein yuchud kamoho v'lo ke'erchoi nimtza kla hagashmis. Ha'ayin b'dugma v'hakana la'amira matzah diyamos ha'mashiach. Yikal Yisrael ha'chamin gadoyim. V'dim devar mistayim v'yishav v'das v'roi. And it says a foretaste in the future to come when all the Jewish people will be filled with great wisdom of the innermost secrets of God. V'gam nikra'im chaylo beit Chabad. And it also stands for Beit David, Chabad is also an acronym. Chabad is an acronym for Chokmah, Bina, and Das, which is wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And it's also an acronym for Chayli Beit David, the soldiers of the house of David. And their job is to go to war and to be victorious by bringing Mashiach. And it will be revealed. And it says that David will bench and bless Hashem. Mashiach he's referring to. And in this specific period as we find ourselves. 40 years after the Histalchus of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And it says after 40 years you could come to understand your master, your teacher. And therefore after 40 years we can say that Hashem has already given us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to know. And we're already in the secondary period where we're holding in Mizmor Tzaddik, which was the Rebbe's Tehillim that year. And we are already holding at the point that God will surely establish the work of our hands. And the Shekhinah will dwell from the work of our hands. And we will then get the reward for all of our deeds and our service throughout the continuation at the time of the exile. Okay, final letter finishing up. Tesva. And the main thing the Rebbe said is the action. The Farsoyim Bakal Mekoim. We must advertise in all places that we are standing at the end and the completion of our service. And we are already beginning the period of our reward. That the reward of the righteous that we will receive from the work we've done. Talking about all the Jewish people in general. And all this is connected to the service and matters that are connected to Mashiach. And we must increase in our learning in Torah as it's connected to matters of Mashiach and Geula and the Beis Hamikdash, which is what we do every Monday night here. And furthermore, and mainly, we must do it in a calm way, in a settled way, with a joy and a happy heart. And we must have big faringans that are filled with joy. And specifically the great simcha connected to the marriage of the Jewish people and Hashem that is taking place. And a foretaste of our mouths will be filled with laughter. And in this generation we're going to witness it. And His name is Yitzchak, the Frierdiker Rebbe. And Yitzchak is indicative of tzachoch v'simcha, laughter and joy. Hu Nasi Shmini, and he's the 8th Nasi from counting from the Baal Shem Tov. And this is connected to of your mouth will be filled with joy. Base. The first one, and we must advertise in all places about the most important shlichut of the Shivas Tamchei Tamimim. That we should light up the entire world with the light of God. Should call Beit Yehudi Beit Torah to feel the that every Jewish house should be filled with mitzvahs and a house of Torah learning and good deeds. So it's called Bayit Ma'ayin V'Dumas Yeshivas Tamchei Tamimim, and it should be an example of like Tamchei Tamimim in Shiva. Torah Chassidus, through the learning of the Torah Chassidus. Gimel, the Parsayim B'Kol Mekayim Mekayim Al Derek Kishtadlus V'Tanatzrich Hahag L'Kach Hazuchim L'Shlushlim Yom Nifnei Hahag, and it's necessary to advertise that we must provide those who have whatever their needs may be at least 30 days before the Hagim. And it's a time of joy, and therefore it's important to help others that they should be joyful with a happy heart. And even before we get to Rosh Hashanah. Shai, I'm just reading what the Rebbe says. You can question the Rebbe when you see him. And the Rebbe talks all the time about Nigel, but the most important thing he says to prepare for Mashiach is Chassidus. Yiratz on me be Hashem's will, but I'm glad that to see your presence. That we must take upon ourselves good resolutions by openly speaking them. And from this, God will surely give every one of the Jewish people all that they need. And He will open up us with matters of holiness and in a way of abundance. And how much more so as it applies to the main, most important thing. The true and complete redemption through our righteous Redeemer. That is written Parsha. That we read in Mincha. Kisavo all arts. When you come and dwell in the land, you should be in a peaceful way, in a calm way. And take it miyad, and immediately this will happen. The kachas mereish is called pri hadama, that we will be able to bring the first fruits to Hashem. V'halachas al hamakayim asher yibachar Hashem elokecha l'shchein shmoi sham. Up until we see the end of the parsha. Shifa ma'ayin kedushecha min hashamayim rech es amecha es Yisrael. Hahol merchava ve'ikra hagurat mishlim, and the ultimate shefa, the ultimate abundance should be through Mashiach Tzidkenu, our righteous Redeemer, taken from Yad Mamish. That should happen right now, immediately. That's correct. Before you said that, he mentioned that the importance of Tamchei Tamimim, that we learn both Chassidus and Nigla with equal importance. We should have the fullest galus of Melech HaMashiach. Hashem should bless every single one of all of the Jewish people and all of our friends, the righteous nations of the world who are keeping the 7 laws of Noach, who are supporting us in our final fight against darkness. To have revealed blessings, but Gashmis, for Ruchnis, for Nir, and Nigla, and most importantly, the ultimate bracha of Moshiach now. God bless you. Kesiva Chasima Toiva, Lashana Tova Musuka.